YouTube is now filled with videos about Osmo Pocket 3. It's proving to be very, very popular, probably more than DJI had forecasted. Anyone and everyone who talks about vlogging or travel video photography right now is doing it with the Pocket 3. Even the videos that are titled "Don't buy it" are filled with the reviewers banging on about how great it is. Second proof, it's still back ordered, which is marketing speak for sold out. It has been pretty much since launch, although usually it's back in stock in a couple of weeks or so, so if you order it now, you'll probably get it within a couple of weeks. I've done a ton of travel with it, and I've got more coming up. I've had it now for 5 months. In this video, I want to share my top 5 tips that I've learned while using Pocket 3. Number 1, storing the Pocket 3 while on the go. I've talked a lot about this hard case before now. I generally avoid using it. I use it occasionally, but I certainly don't use it day to day. I've got concerns about how it puts pressure on the edges of the screen as I take the Pocket 3 out. Here's the Pocket 3. There it is in the case, and it's like there's friction points on the sides that grip it. When it's gripping the actual case, that's absolutely fine. I like the lanyard. When it's gripping the case, that's fine, but as you pull it out, those friction bits, which are kind of here and here, will actually pull on the edges of the screen while you pull it out, particularly if you're squeezing it while you take it out. I don't like that, and that's what concerns me, so typically I don't use this. So to fix it, I came up with this. So this is what I've been using. This here is my Pocket 3 on the expansion adapter, and then there's a GoPro mount in there, but don't worry about that, I'll show you that in a bit. And then this here is a Peak Design capture clip that then goes on my backpack of my, the shoulder strap of my backpack. So it needs 3 components: the DJI expansion adapter, the Peak Design capture clip, and then in here in the middle is a GoPro to tripod mount adapter. I'll put a link for all these down below. And the whole thing just clips off like that. So everything is left on the expansion cage. And I can operate the Pocket 3 as I would normally do. There we go. And then when I'm done shooting, I can just pop it back on the clip there. Now, this clip is probably over-engineered for what I'm doing. People typically will, okay, the Peak Design marketing will tell you that people have full-frame cameras with great long zoom lenses hanging off them on here. And apparently that's super convenient and you don't notice it's there. I don't really buy that. I've never seen anyone do that with it. I use it for GoPro, usually. I normally have GoPros on here doing hyperlapses while I'm hiking, which is why I've got this capture clip. But I think this is actually an even better use for it now, which is to use it with the Pocket 3 because it's so easy. And what I also like is everything is on this expansion adapter here. Nothing is actually screwed onto or screwed into the Pocket 3. If I want to take all of this gear off, I just have to undo the expansion adapter and it all just comes off. So, and because of this being not attached to the bottom, I can also, in this case, I can attach the battery extension handle and also the tripod, which to me is the best way to hold the Pocket 3. Is actually be holding it like this. So if I'm filming myself, so now I can talk and film to myself. Hello, my name's Julian, ha ha ha. Because I'm holding it really easily because I've got all this extension on here, which puts it in the right place without me having to hold my arm up really, really high. So I kind of like that. And if I'm using this expansion adapter and the catcher clip, none of this gets in the way. So I can shut it all down. Now I can just slide that on there. And now it's good to go. Now, you're not going to look cool doing this, but I'm sure anyone who talks to a camera isn't really looking cool anyway. I'm standing here in the woods right now talking to an X3 on a tripod. So, and when I put it back on here, I've actually got 2 cameras hanging off me. So cool is not really the way for this. But if you're looking to quickly access your Pocket 3, this is the way to go. Frankly, I'm convinced this is the way to do it. Now there is a setting on Pocket 3 specifically to use when it's used with this expansion adapter. So you can also use it to do hyperlapses on Pocket 3. So I'm good to go hiking with it. All I need to do now is check the weather forecast, make sure it's not raining. Tip number 2, microphones. There are multiple microphones on the body of Pocket 3. There's one on each side, and there's a very small hole on each. And then there's one also here in the middle on the back. There is also this larger area here below the screen, which I thought was a speaker and microphone, but according to DJI, it's actually just a speaker. Now, this surprised me really because a lot of people use this as a vlogging camera, and that's one of the ways that DJI promote it. I would have expected a front-facing camera because this is the side that generally is going to be facing to you when you're talking to it. So I ran a scratch test, and they're right. It's not a mic, it's just a speaker. Sorry. My advice, though, is for any holes on Pocket 3, just keep your thumb and fingers away from them. So don't hold it up here like this. Hold it down the bottom. Also, microphones. If you have wireless mic 2, there's 2 backup systems I recommend you enable. Firstly, record a backup track on Pocket 3 when you're using wireless mic 2. This will record a separate backup track now from the mics on the Pocket 3 whenever you record with wireless mic 2. If there's a problem with the audio on the wireless mic and you're a long way away from the Pocket 3, chances are you won't know about it until it's too late. This will solve that. Now, this does require the latest firmware, so make sure that's up to date. Use the Mimo app to do it. If you're using the wireless mic 2 away from Pocket 3, even if it's only a few feet away, you should, I recommend, activating the local recording mode on wireless mic 2 itself, so you have that available as a backup. That will record a 32-bit float file, and if you need to access it, you just plug USB-C into the mic and a cable, and then you just download everything from the directory that's on there. There's about 11 or 12 gig on here. You just got to make sure that every so often you clear it out so you don't run out of memory. Tip number 3, the best way to hold Pocket 3. It's quite easy to hold Pocket 3 on its own. It's much larger than Pocket 2, and that makes it easier to hold. I also use the lanyard. I do that on all cameras, actually. It keeps me happy. But if you attach either of the extension handles, you get a much, much bigger and better grip. And if you then attach the mini tripod too at the bottom of it, even if you don't, there we go, even if you don't use the tripod, that is much, much easier to hold now and keep it in line with your face when you're vlogging without holding your arm up. I've also used the Joby 1K tripod for this. Not really a fan of Joby Gorilla Pods. They've scared me too many times with cameras, but for this, it's absolutely perfect, and all you need is the small one. I also have a Ulanzi selfie pole that is super cheap and versatile, and I found that it works really well with the Pocket 3. So the great thing about selfie poles is you can stick any camera on it you like. This one I really like. This is by Ulanzi. I'll put a link in the description below. It's aluminum, it's not carbon. It has fold-out tripod legs, which collapse up into a very nice grip. It will extend to about 80 inches. That means it's taller than I am, and I don't need it to be taller than I am, but it means I can stand in front of it and use it as a tripod. Now, you can't put a big camera on it, it will not be stable enough. And with a gust of wind, even with a GoPro on it, that'll probably knock it over too. But here's the other great feature about it. It's cheap. I paid 25 bucks for this. And I can use it with my Go 3, my Pocket 3, my GoPros. I have face tracking enabled and the wireless mic 2 on me as well. So I don't need to use a remote and don't need to control it with the app. I just press record and then extend the selfie stick. So I'm going to extend this out now. For a one-size-fits-all selfie pole, it also turns into a tripod or a fairly small collapsible stick that is cheap as chips, and despite that, very well made and very solid. This Ulanzi is the one to do. Tip number 4 is settings. I have made a big deal in the past about filming with Pocket 3 in full auto because I'm convinced that's what most people will do. And my advice is generally for vlogging or just travel videos, that's what you should do. All I've done is fix the frame rate and resolution at 4K 24 frames a second. Now, recently I have made some default changes to the settings, and I'm just going to share those with you now. I've changed the EV now to be minus 0.3 of a stop. I find that it just reduces the risk of highlights blown out in the sky when I'm outside. And that's the reason for doing that, and I just leave it set at that all the time. Sharpness I set to -2. I'm shooting at 24 frames a second, and this just looks good to me. Sharpness is always a personal preference, but in my mind, I'm trying to get something a bit more cinematic without trying too hard to be cinematic. And I find 24 frames a second and then -2 sharpness, specifically on the Pocket 3, seems to work really well. Now, when it comes to color profile, I typically don't grade my footage. Perhaps I should, and I always say I should, but I still don't do it. So I use normal color mode. Now, if I was going to make any edits to the grade, I would shoot in log. D-Log is now available in regular video and slow motion and time-lapse modes. One more point on audio, which I should have mentioned before. I set the wind filter on auto for all outdoor filming. I find that really what I'm trying to capture is generally me talking. I'm not really trying to capture ambient sound. I have the gimbal set in slow mode. I occasionally pan. In fact, I probably do too many rookie pans, more than I should. But I just think this helps get apparently smoother footage if I run the gimbal in slow mode. I haven't adjusted the zoom speed from default because I don't use digital zoom on any camera. You can always tell when it's being used, even when reviewers will tell you that you can't. You can. So I just don't use it. Tip number 5 is filters. So the only filters I really use on the Pocket 3 are, I do use the black mist filter, and I have DJI's black mist filter. I use that occasionally. Not as much as maybe you might think you want to use it, since it seems like a new cool filter. But I use that occasionally. I have the pack of 3 DJI branded ND filters. I use the 16 and 64 extensively. There's also a 256 in there. Who on earth uses a ND 256 for video footage? I would prefer to have a lower spec ND filter, say an ND4, to go with the 16 and the 64, and I think that would be perfect, but that's not what we got. For some reason in this kit we have a ND 256. The other one I use is a polarizer, and I use a Freewell circular polarizer, and I just have one. I don't have a massive kit of all these different combinations of ND filters and polarizers. I never use them. I've tried those kits before, don't use them. And then you end up with this great big box that you've got to carry around with you, just in case you need that filter. The other advantage of having a polarizing filter is, just as a consequence of the way that a polarizing filter works, it cuts down the light. So a circular polarizing filter will typically cut down about the same amount of light as an ND4 filter. ND filter. So if you've got a circular polarizing filter, you've basically got an ND4. So with my 3 filter kit from DJI and my Freewell polarizing filter, I've got ND4, ND16, ND64, and then I completely useless ND256, and I've got a polarizer. Now this single Freewell filter, which is I'll put a link in below, it wasn't expensive at all, actually comes with a case that has a space in it for another filter, and my DJI black mist filter goes in there, which is nicely done. I don't really trust putting it in that hard case, in the magnetic holder in that hard case. I don't use the hard case anyway, so I much prefer doing this. It also means I can take my full filter kit here, this is 3 ND filters, plus the black mist filter and the polarizing filter. That's a total of 5 filters, and all that still fits in my favorite case that comes with the Pocket 3 Crazy Combo Kit. So I continue to stay light and small, even though I've got all the filters with me, which at the end of the day is the whole point of the Pocket 3, to be light and small. So there you have it. Those are my top 5 tips for the DJI Pocket 3. I do hope this was useful. My name is Julian. If I can run with it, bike with it, hike with it, or film with it, I'll make videos about it and put them here on YouTube. If that's of interest to you, please do consider subscribing to the channel. If you like this video, please do give it a thumbs up. It actually helps the channel and the video perform immensely. As always, thank you so much for watching. I look forward to seeing you again very, very soon.